Devious Diesel, as the name suggests, is a spiteful, conniving diesel shunter on the Fat Controller's railway. He's infamously known by all the engines for his rude attitude and his sneaky, devious deeds. Very few engines like working with Diesel, and some might say he prefers it that way. On the contrary, Edward is a very kind and helpful steam engine who has worked on Sodor for a very long time. His years of experience make him one of the most patient and good-hearted engines on the railway. One day, Edward had to deliver a train of scrap to the smelter's yard, where Diesel would take it to be melted down. "You have to work with Diesel?" James huffed. "Oof, better you than me. I honestly haven't the faintest idea why the Fat Controller keeps him around. When he's not trying to make our lives miserable, he sits around all day sulking." Edward was concerned. He hadn't heard many good things about Diesel, but he set off for his job all the same. Meanwhile, Diesel was struggling to move a long line of trucks for delivery at the smelters. The trucks were trying his temper, and they sang about it too. "Devious Diesel gonna sign a resignation. He brings the Fat Controller great humiliation. When he hears Diesel's late back at the station, he'll be sent packing home tonight." Growled Diesel, and tried again. But the harder he pushed, the harder the trucks applied their brakes. "Steady on, Diesel," warned his driver. "Your engine sounds terrible. We should split this train and take it a couple trucks at a time." But Diesel paid no notice and just kept on pushing. Edward had just arrived with his train when he heard the commotion from inside. "Oh, that Diesel," he sighed. "If he keeps this up, he'll burn himself out." Edward quickly left his train to help Diesel inside the smelter shed. "Oh, what do you want?" growled Diesel in his oily voice. "I just wanted to make sure everything was all right," replied Edward calmly. "Would you like me to help push from behind?" "As if you'll make any difference," snarled Diesel. "I don't need help from some old geezer steam engine." Edward didn't like Diesel's attitude, but he knew that Diesel really did need his help. His engine was making a dreadful noise. Without saying another word, he ran around back to help. Both engines pushed and puffed their hardest, their wheels spinning furiously. With a jolt, they finally got the train rolling. They moved it to the delivery sidings in no time. "There, are you happy now? Have you made your point?" Diesel fumed. "Well, for your information, I could have managed it on my own. It's because my engine's having trouble. That's why I couldn't move the stupid things." "I wasn't trying to prove anything," replied Edward. "And if your engine's broken, why don't you ask the Fat Controller to go to the works?" "Because I know he won't believe me," growled Diesel. "Anyway, you've done your part. Now get out of here and leave me alone. I'm already behind schedule." "Not if you're having engine troubles," answered Edward. "Tell you what, I've got some time to spare before my next train. Why don't I sort the trucks while you arrange the next trains?" Diesel stopped. He was surprised. "Why are you so keen on staying? I thought you steam engines hated working here. I thought you hated working with me. What's the catch?" "No catch," smiled Edward. "I've worked in, well, a few yards in my time, and I'd hate to leave you to deal with this mess." "Well, if you've got nothing better to do, then you might as well," replied Diesel, not expecting much. "Just don't get in the way." Edward was as good as his word. Diesel didn't say much to him, but with two engines working hard, the smelters were soon running like clockwork. "No wonder Diesel is so rude all the time," Edward puffed to himself. "He has to do all the dirty work in this dreadful place." Soon it was time for Edward to leave. Diesel was secretly relieved for all the help. "All right, listen, Edward, or whatever your name is. I don't dislike what you did for me today. Of all the stinky steamies on this island, and trust me, there's a lot of them, you're significantly less stinky than everyone else. Edward smiled. I'll take it, and I'll make sure to ask the Fat Controller about fixing your engine. Anyways, I should be off now. Goodbye, Diesel. And Edward steamed away. Diesel was in an unusually good mood for the rest of the day. Even his driver was impressed. By the end of the day, Edward was feeling quite worn out from all the extra work, but still happy he had left a good impression on Diesel. The next morning, Diesel was taken off duty from the smelters to help out at Knapford Yard. I need you to arrange this goods train bound for Vickerstown, the foreman explained, but please be careful. Some of the cargo is highly flammable and extremely dangerous. Diesel eyed the dangerous cargo. Yes, of course, he replied. Diesel set to work organizing the train, but no one told him to separate the tankers from the vans. Without knowing, Diesel shunted the explosives in between the flammable cargo and the fuel tankers. Then he left the yard for his next job. No one checked the train. It wasn't long before Edward came to pick up the goods. He was still tired from his extra work the day before, and thick black smoke billowed from his funnel. Are you feeling all right, Edward? Asked Emily. You look terrible. You must have gotten the bad lot of coal this morning. Yes, Emily, I'm fine, thank you. I did get the bad coal, but I'll have to fill up at Kronk. This train is already running late. With a mighty heave, Edward vanished with the goods train in a cloud of smoke. Edward tried his best to make up for lost time, but the train was very heavy. Presently, they reached the ascent up Gordon's Hill. Come on, come on, come on, come on! Groaned Edward. He was puffing so hard that cinders and ashes shot from his stack. And all over the trucks. We've done it, gasped Edward. We've done it! We've done it! On! Screamed the trucks. Push him! Push him! Push him! Go on! Go on! Go on! Diesel was working at the fuel depot just down the line when he heard a commotion in the distance. What's all that noise? He wondered aloud. That doesn't sound good. And it wasn't. It was Edward. He was out of control and careening down the main line. Grease and oil! It's Edward! And his train! Oh no, it's caught fire! Help! Help! Wailed Edward, but it was no use. The truck surged forward, the train rapidly gaining speed. Diesel! My brakes have snapped! Cried Edward. I can't stop, and the cargo will go up any second! You've got to get away! But Diesel had a plan. With a roar, he pulled ahead of the runaway train. Diesel raced ahead to a set of points, and switched quickly onto Edward's track. Well, this is gonna hurt. Holy smokes! Cried Diesel. We've lost the brake van! But there was worse to come. As the engines thundered down the line, Diesel saw something on the track ahead. It was Henry, heading straight towards them. Diesel applied his brakes as hard as he could. Get out of the way! A quick-thinking signalman changed the points just in time. But their troubles were far from over. Stop, Percy! Stop! Look out! Diesel's driver fought for control. Go steady, there's smoke coming from the vans! Help me out here, Edward! Doing my best here, Diesel! Both engines put all their weight against the trucks, but with Edward's broken brakes and Diesel's faulty engine, it was no use. Up ahead was a tunnel. Oh no, not the tunnel! Why is there always a tunnel? Brakes screaming, the cavalcade plunged in the tunnel. Diesel knew it was his last chance to stop the train, or the tankers would take Edward with them. Diesel revved his engine and dug his wheels in the rails as hard as he could. Roared Diesel. At last, Diesel brought the train to a standstill, but the tankers were ablaze. "We've got to get away!" exclaimed the driver. "Leave it to me!" called Diesel. Edward's crew uncoupled the tanker and ran for shelter. Shaking and sputtering, Diesel pulled Edward free from the burning train. They were not a second too soon. Before long, Thomas and Emily arrived with the fire brigade to put out the smoke. Everyone was very shaken and exhausted from the chase, but thankfully, no one was hurt. Well, except for the trucks, but they kinda had it coming. Sir Topham Hatt came to speak with the two engines. "A fine act of skill and bravery, Diesel," he said proudly. "You saved Edward and his crew from a very serious accident. I always knew you'd come through someday. And today you've more than proved that you are a credit to my railway. I'm sending you both to the works for repairs and a fresh coat of paint at once." "3 cheers for Diesel!" shouted the workmen. "Hip hip, hooray! Hooray! Hooray!" "Thank you for saving me, Diesel," smiled Edward. "I'd be in a horrible state if you hadn't been brave enough to get in front and stop me. You were splendid." All right, whatever. It's fine," replied Diesel. "Don't mention it. Seriously. Don't ever mention it. Ever. I don't want to relive this." Edward chuckled. "If you say so. Say, have you ever considered being painted blue with red stripes? After all, you deserve to wear Northwestern colors." "No, never. Not in a million years." Edward laughed. Oh well, it was worth a try. Ever since that day, Edward and Diesel have remained firm friends. Or at least, as Diesel likes to say, tolerable acquaintances. Whenever they pass each other at the station or in the yard, they always exchange a friendly greeting, with a toot of the whistle and a honk of the horn. Diesel can still be grumpy and rude from time to time, and still plays the odd trick every now and again. But ever since that day, the engines have never forgotten about Diesel and his not-so-devious deed.
You know he's full of surprises, just like he'll always be. He brings some razzle-dazzle to the rail. He's full of surprises, as you can plainly see. He's trusting his surprises to prevail. He hopes this time being surprising doesn't fail. They used to call him Devious, because he was a bit imprevious. But please, you must believe us, he's not that bad. A really useful lad.